Over here, please. That's it. Going to go this way, right in the middle. Right in the middle.
And can you just look over to me, everybody, please? For London's favourite paper.
Can we have a vote?
Metro.
You did say it was, Kenneth.
The only one
The
left.
Tories' favourite paper.
I want to tell you about the things that I would do in those. I'm the only candidate in this election that has a youth and education manifesto. It's on my website. Please do go and look at this. I believe we will transform this city when we start engaging with our young people in a positive way, and we don't do that at the moment. Our education system in London is flawed, and it leaves people behind. It leaves the most vulnerable people behind. I have an education strategy. Please look at it. I would appoint a young mayor for London, and I would create a new youth assembly for London and give young people a real voice right at the heart of London. That's how we're going to start transforming this city.
I built a reputation over 30 years in the police service, a reputation for integrity. I was a police officer in Brixton in the 1980s, in the 1990s, and I was the police commander in Brixton in 2001-2002. And then I went to Scotland Yard, and in 2004 I gave a report to my boss, I circulated it to my colleagues, and it was entitled, "It's Time to Face the Realities of Stop and Search." And it said that disproportionate stopping of black people just because of the colour of their skin is not acceptable, and we need to do something about it. And my boss put it in the bin. On May 3rd, because the Mayor is now also the Police and Crime Commissioner for London, he alone decides what the priorities are for the police in London now. You can elect me as Mayor, and I promise you I will implement that report that targets stop and search on the criminals, not because of the way people look.
I want to start by talking about where we are now. There's a small number of things this Mayor can do can make a big impact on ordinary Londoners' lives. One is to cut the fares. We have the highest fares in the world. Those fares, and the biggest increase in fares has been on the buses, a 50% increase in fares. When I left office, a bus fare was 90 pence. Today it's £1.35, and that hits at the poorest people. I know it seems like more than that. I mean, the position is we can cut the fares because, as we have the highest fares in the world, there's a huge cash surplus of £338 million. You can see it on the TfL accounts sitting there. I just think we should put the bulk of that money back in Londoners' pockets. You can spend it in local shops, help sustain the local economy. Then there's the question of the other big rip-off we have in this city, which is energy bills. They've gone up by £300 on average in the last 4 years, and the Mayor can establish an energy co-op that can buy the energy at half the price you pay as a domestic householder and pass that saving on to you. It would save, on average, about £120 a year, but it's year after year after year.
And the Green Vision for London is of a more equal, a more healthy and a more affordable city. I want to help all Londoners flourish, whatever their sex or age or gender or discrimination. Actually, sex and gender are the same, aren't they? Well, mostly, I guess. Sexuality, disability, faith, whatever. We have to give opportunities to every part of London. And I want to bring underrepresented groups who face daily challenges into the heart of regional government and secure basic services to support vulnerable Londoners. London is the most unequal part of the UK. A fifth of people here in London still work for less than the London living wage. That is absolutely inappropriate in a city as rich as London. And a tiny minority at the top get these inflation-busting pay rises and show absolutely no concern about what's happening to people who are sinking into poverty.
This is an administration that's got rid of the era of promising to keep fares down and then whacking them up. It got rid of the era of whacking up your council tax by £964 for a Band D household. We've taken those savings, we're putting it where Londoners want to see the money spent, on the priorities for London in very, very tough times. I'm not going to go around promising to shower this city with money that doesn't exist and that I don't have, and that anyway people would have to pay back later, even if those promises were to be kept. And I'm proud that in the last 4 years crime's come down by more than 10%. Bus crime on buses is down more than 30%. And you remember how much people were complaining 4 years ago about aggression on buses. It is coming down, but by putting more uniformed officers on public transport, we will keep it coming down, and we will keep paying for uniformed officers. By the way, one thing we're going to bring in is a requirement that young people who get free travel in this city, and we're going to protect the right to free travel of young people in this city. I'm going to make sure we get the budgets for that, but I'm going to insist that those young people stand up for older people and for pregnant women and give up their seats and show some respect and consideration.
Quick fire questions, quick fire answers.
I think you've got to be absolutely clear about this. The bike scheme is each bike and docking frames costing £12,000. I think the bike shop saw Boris coming there. I will make certain black people, black Londoners, are a clear part of my administration, and I make no apology for that whatsoever. And I simply say this: look at the manifestos, read mine, clear commitment to work with faith groups and all ethnic groups. Read Boris Johnson's, 152 pages. It does not mention faith communities once. It only mentions black Londoners in the section on crime, which I think is a bit of a Freudian slip.
Ken Livingstone tends to vary his appreciation of the bike hire scheme depending on who he's talking to. If he thinks it's people will like that, he says he invented it way back in 1783 or whenever it was that he discovered the bicycle. Actually, there was no plan for the bike hire scheme before I came to City Hall, and I'd like to know where he would have got the £50 million we got from the banks to fund it with his policy of hanging a banker a week, But what I will say, because I do think that he misrepresents the manifesto. When I was elected in 2008, let's be absolutely clear, young black kids were dying in disproportionate numbers on the streets of London, weren't they? Do you remember that? And it is still a problem. It is still a problem, and that's why. Yes, we are doing stop and search, my friends. Yes, we are. But I think that the Commissioner Bernard Hogan-Howe is absolutely right to say that it's got to be done in a sensitive and intelligence-led way. And I think it is right that we've taken 11,000 knives off the streets of London in the last 4 years, because each and every one of those knives could have been involved in a fatality. And I've got to be robust about this. We have reduced the number of young people who are dying from pointless knife crime, and that's an important thing to do.
Leslie, I think one of the questions you asked that wasn't answered was that with 34 black people dying in police custody between 2004 and 2012, why didn't Ken Livingstone and Lee Jasper do something about it when they had the opportunity to do something about it? The fact is, we have seen one case now, Ian Tomlinson, a white guy who was killed after contact with the police following a demonstration, where the so-called, I use it advisedly, so-called Independent Police Complaints Commission and the Crown Prosecution Service decided that nobody should be prosecuted over that. But then the evidence was heard in public at an inquest, and suddenly they had to change their minds. How much evidence has not been heard in public about other deaths in custody that should have left to other prosecutions?